Hi, this is my case study on missing Booster Club funds. A brief synopsis is Lucy is a student at George Washington Middle School. She's a cheerleader who has been selected for the All-State team, and the All-State team is traveling to New York for a holiday parade. Mrs. Bauman, Lucy's mother, has put together a budget and asked the principal if he would fund the trip. The principal reviews the budget and tells Mrs. Bauman that he cannot support spending these funds on just one student. The problem is Mrs. Bauman asked the principal, Mr. Stevens, to fund a trip for her daughter. Mr. Stevens let her know that he couldn't support spending these funds on behalf of only one student. And then soon after that, at a basketball game, Mrs. Bauman had been taking tickets, and afterwards Mr. Stevens noticed that some money was missing. What I know is Mr. Stevens is the principal. Lucy is a student at this middle school. She's a cheerleader and has been invited to participate in this parade. Mrs. Bauman is an active volunteer at the school and has asked Mr. Stevens to fund the trip. Mr. Stevens denied this request, and at the last basketball game, soon after that, Mr. Stevens found $50 missing from ticket sales when the monies were turned in. What I need to know is $798 the entire cost of the trip, or are parents paying for part? Because at my high school, a lot of times if students go on field trips, the Student Assistance Fund pays for half of each student, and then each student pays the other half. Where is Warren, and how far is it from New York? Do they really need to fly? Were any other George Washington cheerleaders selected for the All-State team? Did Mrs. Bauman help herself to $50? And did Mr. Dumas actually pay with a $50 bill as he reported to Mr. Stevens when he went into the basketball game? My plan of action would be to have conversations with Mrs. Bauman as well as the other person who was selling tickets. They sell tickets and concessions as teams, so there were two people in the ticket booth. I might also go back to the ticket booth to attempt to find the missing tickets that Mrs. Bauman said were torn so they couldn't be sold, and then make contact with the district accounting office for advice on how to proceed if he doesn't find the tickets. As far as resolving the issue, I might have parents reconcile monies with tickets as pairs instead of as individuals, so that there's accountability at least to one other person. I know it's difficult, but have teachers participate in both ticket sales and concessions. I know, again, at my school, at least with concessions, usually a student group runs the various concessions, and it's a different group each time, and then parents might also help with that. Have a log for recording any bills received that are over $20. It's not very often that someone comes in to buy school activity tickets with a $50 bill or more. And then create a process for unusable tickets. Should those 10 tickets have been in the money bag, to show that, yes, they should have been discarded, they weren't sellable, they were torn. As far as debriefing and reflecting, even though I as a principal may have wanted to send Lucy to this parade, I know it's not an appropriate use of funds to send one student to an event. I think that I need to add a layer of security to ensure that this doesn't happen again, and that funds go to student use as they are intended and not misused. And then I also value and appreciate the time parents give to run various aspects of student activities. It sounds like he, as the only principal, would not be able to do it without the parent volunteers. As far as reflection on Standard 8, how do I promote effective and efficient management of the school or district? I understand all of the funds, what they're for, and how they can be spent. I know there are all different kinds of funds with different numbers, and that you can buy certain things with one fund and not another, and different things like that. I enforce timelines for spending monies and make sure they're being used properly. Some funds carry over to the next school year and some do not. So I need to make sure that we aren't throwing money out the window, and that we have supplies and curriculums that we need as long as we have the money. And then make sure all procedures are being followed as far as cash handling, credit cards, those kinds of things. How do I promote the social learning of every student? I am present in the building every day and talk to students. I'm not sitting in my office. I'm out in the halls. I'm in the lunchroom, talking to students, seeing how they're doing. If a student comes to my office for discipline reasons, I might talk them through what happened and try and have them help me figure out how the situation could have been handled for a better result. And then also I'm present at extracurricular activities, so they see me in a different light, talking to them, just enjoying a social activity, talking to parents, just being a person and not just a principal. How do I promote student academic learning? I might do walkthroughs to see firsthand what and how they are doing. That is something that has been very effective in my school district. Principals are doing walkthroughs more and more. It also allows teachers to get feedback on a regular basis as to how they're doing. Make sure the instructional time isn't sacrificed for other activities. It seems like in my school, it was always English because every student has to take English every year. So that was a good time to hit every student in the building and not miss anyone. Have a program outside of school hours where students can come and do their homework. At my school, this started out as a girl working on her Gold Award for Girl Scouts, and she created a tutoring program at school. And what they would do is open up the library twice a week in the evenings so that kids could come and do homework, hang out, get help with homework, because there were always teachers who volunteered to be there. And it seemed to be in a very effective and helpful program. This is the resource I used, and this is my case study for